All right, it's Friday night. We'll talk some hockey. We haven't done this for a while.
Yeah, my hairline's gotten worse since as I'm looking here at this camera, so it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. I'm Chris. He's Josh. This is Wingscast, and we're avoiding watching the All Star game right now or whatever they're doing tonight. I think it's skills tonight, but
Didn't even know it was on tonight.
I'm not watching it. Um, I think let's just talk about where the Wings are because this is kind of contentious among the fan base now. You've got people thinking if you've got Bert, if you've got Vrana for the year, there's a chance you're in the playoffs. And then I think you've got people that are saying, and I don't necessarily disagree with them, that you could trade Larkin at this point. Like, I know you're more optimistic than I am, though.
I mean, there's two sides, obviously. I think between this fan base and the media. The media, has kind of tried to let things play out, especially local media. But yeah, like we talked before, is what kind of return? That's the first thing that comes to mind. A first round automatically, right? Or if you
Well,
get a
for
player that's
Larkin,
ready, yeah, if you're
well,
ready,
Larkin, you've got to get a ton. You
yeah.
can't just trade him for a first. You'll never get it back. But
I
I think the go ahead.
I don't think anybody in the league has the assets to do that. I think Detroit is the only team in the league that has the assets to do that without a lot of teams are in the window right now. All right, but they don't have the picks, and if you get their pick, then you're picking so far back. It just doesn't make sense unless you get multiple firsts plus a
I
lower tier player.
I think you'd have to talk prospects if you were talking about trading Larkin. I think you're talking team's best prospect likely, but you're also talking Larkin as a rental, right? So the
Yeah.
value is kind of hard to establish. But I guess this all stems from the fact that, what does he want in a contract? There's been some speculation he wants over 9 million a year, and I think that's too much.
Oh wait, yeah, I agree.
I think if you got him at 8 for 8 years, that's fine. I think 8.5 is the ceiling. But I don't know. I don't know where that is. You can't
They're
afford to overpay.
they're good on term, is what I heard. Is the term is 8.
Oh, the terms,
Um,
yeah, of
the
course the term's 8.
term's going to be 8, and then they're stuck at 9 and 8. So, right, automatically, what do you think? 8.5 will get the job done. But what I've seen from Frege on Hockey Night Canada is Yzerman is at his line. What that
Yeah.
means, has he gone from Stevie to Steven Yzerman at this point when it comes to the negotiation? I don't know, but it seems like he's drawing a hard line. I mean,
Well, I think he's
he,
drawn a hard line mainly because he knows he's either got to make this contract and this is what he's going to be willing to offer, or he's got to deal him. And I think that's why you're seeing this right now. I think that's why this is playing out right now. It's you're either going to sign this deal and this is what you're getting, or I need you to waive that no trade, and you're going somewhere
yeah,
because
he's come
he
out.
can't walk. You can't let him walk.
You can't. You can't. I think he's trying to play that. They're definitely playing that. When he switched agencies right in the middle of right before the contract negotiation, even if it was in the middle of it, I don't know what the timeline was, but he did switch, and that was kind of a head scratcher because you don't typically do that, or you typically don't see that. But it's kind of like you went and got a hard ass to go out there and negotiate for you, and we're kind of seeing it. So, and the same thing with Athanasiu was he went and got this agent. This agent pretty much screwed the relationship between him and the Wings. So I don't know. Maybe you
I don't,
see something like that. I doubt it because the
I don't know.
importance of both sides. But that's the biggest question mark of the season right now. It's just a gray cloud hanging over everything.
Yeah, I think that affects what we call the rebuild, right? I mean,
Right?
drastically. It affects timeline completely. If you know you deal Larkin, you're basically saying from cider on is where this rebuild's going to be, and Andrew Kopp's your first line center. That's a scary prospect right there.
Yeah,
But
you lose a 30-goal scorer. I mean, definitely. I mean, he's got what 15 goals this year. Definitely
yeah,
going to eclipse 30. Along with Raymond, who's been a pleasant surprise, and even Kubalik. But you got to sign him. I think Steve knows that. I think Dylan doesn't want to take a discount here. So
I think if you want
it's
the thing you got to also look at though is like if there's nowhere else out there that can afford him at 9 that
no.
you want to call being oh I want to go win somewhere you want to be on a fucking winning team. You, no one has that money in the cap right now. So you're either gonna take less to be on a winner, or you're gonna take maybe a little more to be here. And I think a lot of the fan base, because he's our best player, they don't really compare him to the league real well. I think he's
No,
among
no.
forwards for production, he's like 70th of forwards. And I think among centers, maybe he's like 26. So, yeah, he's a first line center. He's not elite. He's not a great two-way player. He's not good on the power play and never has been. So you can't just load up money on him and hope that if, after he gets paid, he's going to put it together.
That's not gonna be the case. It never really is the case, really. If you pay the guy, his production typically goes down a slight bit. But you're right. I mean, and all those points, there's not really one thing that he does really, really well. And I mean, I'm not taking anything away from him because he's so important to the team. But at the end of the day, I mean, you compare him to say a Raymond or a Cider, or you compare him to a Cider's a bad comparison, but compare him to another um,
Like I
one
see like
one
Pierre
C
Luc
or two
Dubois,
C.
like
Yeah.
comparisons. Pierre Luc Dubois is a much better two-way forward. He's probably a better goal scorer. He has no comparison to the elite centers in the league. Uh, and for the money, he doesn't really compare well to, the guys where I'm saying, at 9 million, he doesn't you can't compare him to the guys making less and say like, oh yeah, this guy's a 1C, but he's making 5 million a year, you know? So all that kind of has to factor into how you really look at, Larkin's overall package, like of what he brings versus the cash. And 9 million, he makes him not good value.
Well, no, it doesn't. And I mean, I'm not drawing a comparison here because there is no comparison. But look at Nathan McKinnon. Um, he pretty much won a Stanley Cup before he got paid.
Yeah.
And I think if that was the case here, like we were a French contender team, and then we go win a cup, and then he wants 9 or 9.5, then you give it to him. It's a
Well,
different conversation.
that's the Taves situation, right? Like you
Yeah,
won and then you got paid. And that's just what it
exactly.
was.
That's just not the case here.
Yeah.
So he's probably going to have to take a lot less, and he's probably either going to. I bet I would say they front load this contract.
They
That's
could they
typically
could
what they
front load
do.
the contract. Oops, I almost fell off the stool here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean they could front load it and give him some big money up front to kind of make taking less seem better. But I don't know. That's the biggest thing. You got other things coming up, maybe like what do they do with Bertuzzi? Like I think you got to trade him, right? You just got to be done.
He's in purgatory, really. I mean, Zadina, Vrana, Bertuzzi are all in purgatory when it comes to this team. I mean, a guy either falling on the depth chart a little bit, Bertuzzi because he just hasn't had the reps. Vrana, obviously, other issues, and then Zadina's had injury issues. So
And
that's
Zadina just you got to wonder what's up with like he doesn't look bad, but just nothing goes in for him.
no,
I
it
mean,
doesn't. It
is it
just he can't.
eventually is it eventually going to get right, or is he just this is him?
I don't know. It kind of reminds me, and Luke Robitaille, his later years with the Wings, he just couldn't score. He would play his same type of game, just couldn't score after that 02, 03 season. So, I mean, yeah, he's definitely not Luke Robitaille, but that's kind of what I think of. But I mean, at that point, they were just. I think Robitaille was spray painting sticks using Hall's curve or something like that. I mean, it was everything but voodoo. But this kid, his games, he's come such a far distance compared to what he started with, compared to where he is now. I think he's a more complete player. I don't think he's as one dimensional as he was probably set up to be,
Well, he
especially in
has
the
to
power
because
play.
that one dimension's never come out, right? Like,
Right.
so you got to be doing something. But I think Zadina's real problem now, though, is I mean, he's fallen hard on the depth chart of wingers.
Hmm.
Raymond obviously is ahead of him. Bergeron is ahead of him. I mean, you can't argue that at this point. Next year, Soderblom has a good chance of being ahead of him. Who else you got?
Ras.
Rasmussen playing wing is ahead of him too. So, and if they re-sign Bertuzzi, obviously that's ahead of him. Um, you got guys like Perron, Kubalik next year as well. Depending, I think there's a good chance they get rid of Perron at the deadline. I think someone takes him. Um, I think the right offer, they definitely will let him go with retained salary. But you got to wonder where he's going to start falling into this because he's not a fourth line player. He can't do that, right? Like that's just not his game. He's not physical. Doesn't board battle real well. He's okay, but So you've got what do you got? You got 3 lines. You got 6 spots for him. We just said 5, 6 players there.
Yeah, he's
Can
gonna
you
have to
trade
show
him?
something. I mean, he could be a piece with another trade, honestly, but, I don't know. They signed him 1 year, right? Was it
No,
1
he's
year?
got he's got this year and the next two.
Okay,
He
so, I
got a
mean,
3-year deal.
you probably don't trade him until that last year, honestly,
I
because you
think I think you might trade.
I
I
don't
don't
think
think they're
anyone's gonna
afraid to
touch the
trade him.
term. I don't think they're afraid. I
It's
don't think anybody's
it's
gonna take
cheap
the
though.
term.
It's like 1.8 mil for the upside. I mean,
I mean,
you could bury almost all of that up to like 600,000 if you had to.
yeah, I think there's just I think 1 more year, give him a shot next year, out of training camp. We'll play him, and I mean, if I think halfway through you'll know. Honestly, a quarter of the way through the season, you'll probably know. I mean, some of the guys that were normies right now, that are normies right now, Berggren, who else came up? Even shoot,
Like Soderblom was good.
yeah,
Um,
great hands. That kid, I saw. We went to a preseason game against the Leafs, and the goal he scored was a backhand toe drag to the middle of the ice, and I'm like, brother, you're 6'8" on skates. You're not supposed to have hands like that, but he's impressive. He's gonna be really good.
yeah, his ability to protect the puck is incredible. When you watch him, it's fantastic. And
It
I
is.
think he gets a little bit more experience, so he might be an awesome 6th round pick. But you got him. You got guys like Mazer, who's scoring a ton of goals in college right now. Who,
Hmm.
he'll. I wouldn't be surprised if he's in the AHL next year. I don't know if we'll go back and 1 more year in college after that or not. But so Zadina's kind of in trouble when it comes to depth. He's not going to get traded this year because of the injury, and
Right.
he'll get training camp. He'll get up. I don't think the his time being unscratchable is. I think that's over. I think you'll see him as a healthy scratch if he can't produce.
Sure.
Um, and I think he's tradable. I don't think they'll waive him. They'll do. He'll be a scratch or whatever. He'll play some minutes here and there.
Yeah, I think
Worst case.
the talent's there from him, and I mean the team. This I never thought we would get to this point, honestly, so quickly, where we were trying to figure out a spot for Zadina. But watching
Sad.
some of these guys play, I mean, it is. Man, I had high hopes for him, but I mean, guys like emerging like Raymond. I mean, how good does that pick look right now?
It's
Got
probably the
50,
second best pick of that draft. But I mean, he was taking 4, so it's not like it's a huge thing. Um, but it's still good to have what probably will be a top 2 pick. Stitzel will be first from that draft, unless
yeah, it's
Byfield
just
finally comes on or something. Lafreniere doesn't look that good so far.
well, they were talking about moving him, and I'm thinking,
I,
that would make
I,
sense for us. That would make real good sense for us. But what asset do you send back? Bertuzzi, Zadina,
yeah, Bertuzzi screwed us from a value perspective like 2 years in a row now, right? Like he had the couldn't play in Canada, and then he had the this year where he's broken 2 hands, and I don't remember what the other injury was, but there was something else early.
like a low groin, I think, or something.
Yeah,
It
I
was
don't
lower
remember.
body. But I'll tell you who's been impressive is Huso. I think going back, our goalie situation's been absolute garbage for how long? It feels like since Hasek in '02. Howard leading into Conklin and the Gustafson and who
Howard was
else
good for a little bit, but I mean, he wasn't elite. Huso's not elite either. Um,
gets the job done, especially for as much
he's
load
been
as he takes.
he's been pretty good. There's been some nights though where
But
he's
he
letting
just
some
hasn't
real,
had it.
yeah, he's letting some
Yeah,
real soft goals. Kind of almost. I mean, he doesn't play like Mrazek, but he kind of reminds you of that. Like he'll be pretty good or he'll be great, and then he'll just be awful. And I mean, every goalie's gonna have a bad night. That's just the way it is. But you,
some bad nights that he was having. It was like letting
and
in
he,
4 goals out of 10 shots type thing.
yeah, and it was usually against bad teams too, which just made it worse because I mean, those are the points you have to get if you want to be a playoff team. And speaking of that, I mean, they're not making the playoffs, right?
I mean, 21, 19, and 8. You got 50 points. You were 5 out of the lowest spot, 5, 4, and 1 the last 10. One thing that tells me they're not going to make the playoffs is the negative 15 goal differential.
Negative 15 is
It's
not terrible.
it's not terrible, but for this team,
Better than prior years.
yeah, obviously, yeah, definitely. But for this team, that needs to be 15 the other way. For this to be a playoff team. So I don't know if they put it together. the second half. Um, I mean, they look good. I'll tell you what, Lalone has got these guys playing for each other, which has been the noticeable thing of all of this.
I agree with that for the most part. They still have some slow starts. They've got some games out
Sure.
there where, they just look bad, but somehow in the last 3 minutes when they're finally down, 2 goals, they finally turn it on. They look great, and it's where was this? What
Well, it tells you they're never out, and I think of the
that
flash type teams.
that
I
is
don't.
that is a good point. I will say that about Malone that they aren't getting blown out. They're always kind of in it. The effort's there to the end, the vast majority of the time,
Right,
and you're not seeing those 9-2 games anymore or anything like that. So that's good.
but definitely a skill gap between us and Boston,
Oh, oh
Toronto,
yeah,
Tampa.
yeah.
I mean, we played Tampa really hard this year, but the obvious
You look at a team like
perennial powerhouses,
look at a team
yeah,
like
we're just
Florida
not
though. I
there.
mean, Florida was supposed to be in the Atlantic race or at least a wild card, and they're terrible. They're not going to make it,
Yeah,
and
well, that's
they don't
Paul
have their
Maurice.
pick either.
That's not Paul Maurice. I mean, that's Paul Maurice for you right there.
Yeah,
I
Palm.
mean, they messed up when you trade for
Yeah,
Giovanni Smith and then play him the very next game that you trade him, especially in that lineup. You got problems.
yeah.
So
They got big problems. But I mean, they're running like I think 52% of their points right now. 521 is what I've got for points percentage. The wild cards are
mm,
all right around 560. So unless Buffalo or the Caps really have a bad stretch and the Wings, overachieve, they're out. They're done.
right,
But
but
I just hope they know that. Like I hope they aren't, like, well, we're gonna add a guy or two, kind of Ken Holland esque to have some confidence and try for it. Like you've already basically lost a high pick in a great center draft, what looks to be a good center draft. I just you got to try to get some assets for this draft, right? You got to do something.
this is the one you want to have the assets on. I don't think you'll ever see it. Connor Bedard. I mean, we
Oh
say that about McDavid, but you'll never see this. He's going to change whatever franchise he goes to.
yeah,
Um, but I don't know,
even
man.
like Fantilli or like you see some of these mock drafts with Russian situation and all that where Mitchkov's fall until like 6. I mean, if Mitchkov's on the board at 6, like you should be trying to trade up. That kid, he's a fantastic player. You know, so
Yes, he's got a bit of a hothead. I think he said something to the ref the other day. Got out of the box, said something to the ref, and turned right back around. They threw him back in the box. So
I didn't see
I
that.
mean, it happens. I hate officiating this year, but no, it's interesting to see, especially in this draft, how where we are right now. I think that was the problem with Ken was we kind of lingered in this purgatory of are we in,
Well,
are we out? We gonna squeak in? Well, there goes your top whatever pick. Well,
well,
we're out.
I mean, not to end the video early or anything, but that I think that's the main point here for this year was you could have got a really good pick had you not bought the free agents, right? You had not got Perron, Kubalik, um, Huso. Maybe you could argue they needed the goalie. Uh, you know, Andrew Kopp, Ben Sherratt. Bad money on those deals, in my opinion, really bad. I mean, I think Kopp's on pace for like 8 goals for the year right now, and that
Right.
was supposed to be your second line center. So someone made some poor calculations there. You can get all the core injury, coping that you want on that. That's been bad, really bad. And Sherratt was terrible with Cider. He's looked better mid pair. He should still be on the bottom pair, I think. But you know, but all that has affected kind of where I guess the floor of the pick was. Like you were never going to see the bottom five with these additions. You were never going to see, um, you'd be lucky for a top 10 pick, and that's still kind of where we're at. We're going to be lucky for a top 10 pick, and those guys, once you get outside like the top 6 or 7 guys, you're talking normally. I mean, there's outliers, of course, but you don't see those guys for maybe 2, 3 years, maybe 4. Um, so that help doesn't come very fast. Like people were saying
No.
Casper's going to play in the NHL next year and all this. He's going to the AHL.
Yeah.
There's first of all, there's really no room on the roster right now. Um, and they're
I
going to
mean,
want to play him at center.
You could
So
package Vrana, Zadina, and Bertuzzi for
for nothing, too much cap. There's just too much cap there.
yeah. I
There-
mean,
I mean that's the problem. The league is so capped out with the low cap increases that you can't really throw these packages together. People don't want. I mean, you're either trading bottom six forwards or bottom pair D for nothing, third, fourth round picks, or you're retaining salary on high end guys that we really don't have. I mean, Larkin, there's your money. Bertuzzi, if he had played well this year, would have been worth something.
right.
Um, I still think Perron can get you something if they want to retain on him because he'll be through next year. That retention goes 2 years or this year and next year. Um, but we're in that place where you're not getting the picks that help you fast, and they don't help you a ton.
Right.
Like you look at Rasmussen, ninth overall, right? He's finally starting to get it, and I think this is draft plus 5 for him off the top of my head. He was
I think so.
27. So yeah, this would be draft plus 5. So that's what you're gonna get. So Larkin signed for 8 years after this. This year's draft pick is going to help him in 5 years.
Right. So you're thinking your window's from what, 3 to 5?
If you have a window.
Right.
Because what else moves on during that time? You know what I mean? So you're not building within the same years. Like if you put Larkin as like you're going to try to win with Larkin, it's going to be really tough.
Yeah.
And that's why I think the people who are saying you should think about trading Larkin aren't wrong.
I mean, yeah, it's just not going to happen. I don't see it happen. That would be just something that completely out of not even left field, but out of the stadium from Steve. But then again, I never thought Mantha would be traded, so it proved me completely wrong on that one. Nor did I think Verana would end up where he is right there. I thought for sure we'd have him up this time, but obviously other things got in the way. But it is what it is, man. Here we are, and
When do they make the
it's
playoffs next? Let's end on a prediction here. When do they make them?
not next year, but the year after.
Okay. Well, I was going to say the same thing. I think they make the playoffs in 25. I think all the talent will have progressed enough that they'll get you there. I think they lose in the first round, probably multiple times. And
Well, well, hopefully Raymond's up to 40, 50 goals a year. That kid is so good, man. He is so good.
he's fun to
Um,
watch. His defense has to get better though if he's going to be real.
I
I mean,
mean,
his defense is poor.
if he's putting 40, 50 up a year, I mean, who cares? But I mean, you
Uh,
got Evanson on his way up, and I mean,
maybe
the depth's there. I mean, we got 8 million down in Grand Rapids right now, so which is crazy enough.
the depth is there, but how high end is that depth? I don't know. I don't
I
I
don't
don't think
know
there's.
either.
I mean, you can believe in it or not, but until it's here, in my opinion, like I remember when Valeno was drafted, everyone was, oh, there's your 2C. You know,
It hasn't panned out yet.
hasn't panned out yet. I mean, he's been a lot better this year. Valeno, I've been a Valeno believer for a long time. But yeah, I mean, you can't just say like these guys they're just going to show up. I mean, how many people have said, trade Hronik because we've got whatever defenseman we have, like Lindstrom's. We got trade Hronik. Come on,
Right. We
like
got Gustav. We have Gustav Lindstrom.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Go for it.
or Tuomisto is going to be the next great thing. Like guys back in Finland, he's never going to play. So
Yep.
I think it's definitely worth tempering expectations on these kids until they actually get here. Like you read a lot
It's
of
not
Red
going to
Wings.
happen. It's not going
Well,
to happen. You know how it works here. It's
I
people.
know how it
If
works.
we don't get somewhere sniff the playoffs next year, the year after, people are going to be calling for a change somewhere. It's just how it is. I mean,
I think. Well, I said last year if you're gonna get free agents, you should have went big. Like you should have went and got Goudreau, or you should have done something bigger than Kubalik, Sherratt, and Kopp. I think Perron was a great ad. I'm a big Perron fan, but those other three guys, they're okay, but they're not moving the needle that much.
no, not at all. I mean, not that much at all, really.
You should have went
Culture.
big, or went for the draft pick. That was it. That's what they need to do again. If you sign Larkin, you've got to do something big in either free agency or a trade. You've got to make and like eventually you're gonna have to trade Evanson or Kosa, or I don't know if Kosa really has much value, but he's not Wallstedt, that's for sure. Um, Dumb
He will
pick.
be. Oh, he will be.
Yeah, okay. Um, I don't know. He's gonna have to do something big. You can't. It's not just gonna be if you sign Larkin and you're gonna make that run with him. You got to start being a lot more aggressive than he has been.
Yeah, well, it's not moving fast, that's for sure. I mean, I thought we'd have some sort of trade or trade here or trade there, but
Huh.
uh, I mean,
Trades are
the,
hard. Remember?
yeah, oh yeah. I mean, deadline's coming up, so I think we'll be very active. And if we're not very active, then I don't foresee this being or the year after being very good. So
I don't know. Again, I'm gonna be afraid on July 1st. That's me cowering in my bedroom or something, just
you know,
trying to trying to get through free agency. But
whatever gets you through it.
yeah, well, I don't really have anything else.
That's it. I think we've pretty much covered it all.
All right, yeah, that's pretty rambling, but good enough. We'll see you guys next time.
See ya.